Here we go.
You're curious.
Exactly, I'm curious. That's
If you need
it.
a sign, here it is.
That's right. Let's go ahead and just to inform everyone, we are on not Facebook Live, but YouTube Live. So hopefully, if the equipment is functioning properly, I guess we'll be live right now as we speak. So I guess we will. Let's look at our housekeeping first. I guess if you can silence your phones, I think I'm gonna do the same because my phone likes to ring.
And you are functioning.
Oh, it is? Oh, good. Good. Let me just go ahead and silence my phone. Okay. All right.
But you must have it set on follow you.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. It was doing a.
And they're like, okay, I'm kind of lost here. But anyway, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here this morning. I'm traveling from Maryland to come here because I'm quite excited to share whatever information I could hopefully help you guys grow your business in. So this is something I came up with over the years that I saw that's very critical in the kind of work that we do in real estate. Is to how do you grow your business in a consistent manner where everything builds up. On a daily basis, you have activities that you're doing. So the 4 pillars that we're gonna talk about today is looking at really the very basic. So for those who attended the last meeting for business planning kind of thing, let's talk about that. Because if you haven't been able to do your business plan yet at this point, you're behind. This is the reason why we had that meeting to begin with, is to get that first pillar of your business, which is dealing with your planning, what you're trying to accomplish. So what does a successful real estate business look like? Well, one thing is it's achieving your financial goals. I think that's all what we're all working for. Otherwise, we'll just be on vacation and doing volunteer if all the money in the world is with us, right? Able to have personal time. In real estate, believe it or not, you'll have the ability to be able to spend as much time as you can with your family, with your friends, with anybody that you care about. One of the reasons why that it's important that you set up your business properly, because eventually what you want to do is you work your way out of the day-to-day task. And believe it or not, there are agents out there that are doing very, very well, and they only work like 30 hours a week, or not even work, going on a lot of vacations. I've been in that role for like 9 years, during the time, the peak of the market in '05 and the bottom of the market in '08, all the way to like 2012, 13. Then I had to slow everything down because, personal reasons. So this is the importance of actually understanding the reason why you would be doing certain things. So give me 1 second here, guys. Technical difficulties. So the idea here is to be able to, how do you do this kind of thing? Well, the way I look at it is you first begin with the business plan that we spoke with like on January 8th when I came here the last time. The business plan has to be in details exactly where you are and where you want to go. It's like a roadmap. Just like anything else, And it's very basic because what happens a lot of times when we're employed by somebody else, somebody created that for us. That's the problem. Somebody else already created that for us. You need to create that for yourself. And we get bogged down with day-to-day tasks that, if like what I call distraction. When you focus on your energy, you got to focus on your energy where it counts. And where it counts the most is having a business plan that's executable, something that you can move along the way, which means every single day it's already laid out for you what you're going to be doing. Just like when you have an employer. How many of you guys actually been employed somewhere? Most of us, right? Pretty much. Well, I've been fortunate enough until I was in 18 years old or 21 years old, actually, when I went to college. I was working part-time everywhere, all the different places. I never actually had a full-time job that I lasted more than a year, mainly because the way I think is different than what most people way of thinking. Because the way I'm looking at it is like a job to me was not the most efficient way of looking at my life on how I want to make the income. Maybe I would enjoy certain things, but why not enjoy it the way you want it, the way you designed it? And this is like living your life intentionally. This is one of I'm sorry.
I'm just making sure you have the feed.
Oh, wow. Did it?
Whenever you did whatever you did to that camera, that's when the feed went off.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. Huh. I'm telling you, this is the first time I'm doing this. Is the feed still there or no?
It's black.
It's black right now. Excuse me.
No, you were trying to capture it. I didn't want you to go too far in.
Right. Thank you. Let's see here. Let's see if it's any better. Nope.
Yeah, on the WhatsApp, they're saying Mark is not visible.
Mark is not visible. Okay. Give me 1 minute, guys. Let me just. Okay, there you go. All right. Sorry for the technical difficulties, guys.
It happens.
So, your business plan, if you have not done one, I really encourage you guys to do one. And if you don't have your significant other or someone that care about you kind of check on you, because if you cannot check on yourself, because sometimes we're all guilty of that. The accountability that we have for ourselves is so little compared to somebody else's accountability of us, right? Because every single day that your business plan is not set up is thousands of dollars you're losing. And let me be honest with you, I'm talking about thousands of dollars mainly because if your business plan is set up properly, every single hour of your day is spent on the right things, doing the right activities. If you're actually right now producing, let's say, 5 or 6 transactions, right? Let's say you're producing 5 or 6 transactions, and you want to actually be able to produce more. You need to actually, excuse me, just 1 second. I'm just gonna turn this off. Having so much problems with, okay. So if you're looking at your business and you're not where you want to be, it's because you haven't laid out the plan to get there on a daily, hourly basis. How many of you guys, when you wake up in the morning, every morning, know exactly what you need to be doing and you get it done, and at the end of the day, you'll count yourself, okay, I did this, and I did this, I did this. Oh, I missed this one, but I'll actually put that for the next day. Anybody, all of you guys, well, exactly, right? I mean, that's probably why you have a certain amount of success in the things that you do.
Hope so.
Yeah, yeah, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. The reason why you'll have a certain amount of success in what you're doing is because you have your day planned the day before. So if you guys don't have your like what to do and what not to do, are you familiar with that part? I think I talked to you guys last time about that. I mean, I had this one guy that actually, like, he had his assistant turn off his Facebook and all his social media off for the week. And on Friday, turns it back on, removes it from his phone, everything. And on Friday, he turns it back on for the weekend. So I guess at least he has social media on the weekend. But that's what you have. You have the opportunity to try to do better on a daily basis if you have it on a measured scenario. Like you have it written down, right? And know exactly where you are, because the problem that a lot of agents have, and the reason why you're not producing what you would like to be producing, is because you're not doing enough activities that you should be doing. Okay? So we're going to get into that today, and we're going to actually get into it even more. And here, what does a successful business, real estate business look like? Having a better lifestyle, working as an option, since money is no longer an issue. I mean, wouldn't that be nice? I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I mean, I liked being in that situation. I was in that situation until my divorce, and then I had to start over. So, and you know, and that's another thing I'm going to talk to you guys about, how important it is for you to have a balanced life. Because the biggest problem a lot of real estate agents have is they get sucked into this work. Then you forgot you have family to take care of and why you're working to begin with. So what's the point of actually doing all this for what if your family's not there? And that's exactly what ended up happening to me. I got sucked into the real estate, making like almost $1 million a year. I'm averaging $500,000 a year, like every year, constant. I even actually had to, on vacation, my family was like a second-class citizen because I went and showed all the houses or whatever I need to do, list the property, open house, whatever. And on our vacation, I fly where they drove. Okay, I fly to Atlanta where we were supposed to be meeting up at, and they drove all the way down there, right? So to me, my priorities was not straightened out, and this is something that all of us are guilty of at some point in our lives when we are focused on the wrong things, right? So being one of the best real estate agents, receiving awards and accolades, that's something that kind of drove me. Some of you, it might drive you. Some of you might not. I mean, it depends on your personality. I mean, you know, my personality, I'm actually an A-type personality where I think you know it by now, that this is something I enjoy, being in front of you guys. Some people hate actually doing motivational speaking or speaking in front of public. This, I'm thriving in. You know, my wife and I were like driving one day, and she told me, she's like, you know, what makes you so excited? And I told her, I said, you know, I thrive in pressure. The more pressure you give me, the more I enjoy it. It's one of those things that, you know, that's part of my personality, that I enjoy actually having a certain amount of pressure in the things that I do. So why follow the four pillars? Well, it allows you to focus on the basics and the planning, implementation, the adjustment, the adaptation, everything to do with getting to your goals. So this is the reason why I thought this was appropriate from the first meeting that we had, because if you've been following on the business plan sets you up. This one here follows through what your business plan is all about. This is all about the implementation part. So the 4 pillars that I see that a lot of us actually miss is defining our success. So, of course, you need to know where you are and know your realities, and then you look at it from where you want to be. And visualizing it, believe it or not, is half the battle. If you actually talk to, you know, there's an interview by Darren Hardy, who's the owner of Success Magazine, and he talks about billionaires, how he interviews those billionaires, and he talks about like success and what makes people successful. One of them is visualization. You have to have a horizon or a vision of exactly what you want. Because if you don't know what you want, you'll get what you get, and you'll never be happy about the results that you produce. Because you never clearly defined it. So clearly defining, when I ask somebody how much you want to make, oh, I want to make six-figure income. Well, six-figure income is from 100,000 to 999,999. I mean, that's six-figure income. Or I want to make seven-figure income. It's like, how much did you make last year? Oh, I made $30,000. Great. You know, you're still crawling and you're expecting to sprint, right? I mean, so the realities has to sit in where you actually could go, and you can push the realities as far as you can get, but there's still realities of time, and still realities of family, still realities of issues that you run into, health issues, whatever it is. So that's why the importance of actually understanding that part. Implement plans. This is another thing. Implementation of plans is one of the most difficult things all of us are guilty of. Implementing plans. When I'm talking about implementing plans, is as simple as actually going grocery shopping. We procrastinate. I mean, we procrastinate. And there's consequences to everything that we procrastinate. So my firm belief is very simple. If something is on my plate, I look at the top 3 priorities. And this is also from Darren Hardy interviewing Warren Buffett. And Warren Buffett says, well, you know what? I fill out my to-do list, right? And when I fill out my to-do list, I pick the top 3 priorities on my list, and I throw away the rest. And he says, why do you throw away the rest? Well, I throw away the rest because they become distraction to the top 3 priorities I need to take care of first. And if I don't remember, then it must have been not that important. That's what he was saying. That's why he throws away the list, and then he starts over. So the point I'm trying to make to you is, you have to actually understand the importance of implementation on a day-to-day basis. Certain things, otherwise it piles up and it becomes a bigger problem for you. And how many of you guys run into that situation where you're procrastinating certain things and all of a sudden it piles up into something like you feel like you cannot even take care of anymore, right? All of us have run into that situation, right? I mean, we're not in school anymore where the accountability is with the teacher and you cram enough that hopefully you pass the exam. Nobody's grading you on this. You know how you can tell if you're passing or you're failing? If you're not achieving your goals. That's basically what it boils down to. Nobody's looking behind your back. And that's the reason why you have people that care about you. Tell them what you want to do and tell them, hey, listen, I'm going to give you $100 if I didn't get it done. I mean, that's what we do with partner accountability partners. In one of the things that I do with coaching and mentoring, we do accountability partners, and we partner up with certain people, and then if that person doesn't do what they're supposed to do, then they pay it's between $5 and $35 or something like that. But it is money, right? And it is something that's tangible, and it has to be valuable enough for you to feel it. But the point I'm trying to make to you is, when you get these things done, what you don't realize, the importance of how that flywheel effect happens. Because when you input the same input over and over and over, like a flywheel in the beginning doesn't move much. So like, oh, well, brushing my teeth every morning doesn't feel like it's getting anywhere. Well, try not brushing it for 6 months and see what your teeth looks like then, right? That's my point. That's my point. You have to understand that everything has consequences, and even your success has that consequence. That means if you were to actually want, let's say, 12 transactions in a year, or 15 transactions in a year. And by the way, 15, 20 transactions is really not even that much, if you think about it. That's averaging probably what? 1.5 transactions a month, right? I mean, 24 transactions to a month, that's once every 2 weeks. I mean, how many hours do you guys get to spend on selling one house? More than 2 weeks, 80 hours? No, we don't spend 80 hours on selling a house, right? I hope not. I mean, man, you'll be out of gas before you know it. So the point I'm trying to make to you is, focus on the things that you can implement on a regular basis. And that's very important, actually, to be able to focus on. It's the implementation of everything that you're doing. Excuse me. It's not, right, okay. Yeah. Okay, here you go. There you go. So, and then the third part is prospect for growth. This is part of everything that we're doing. We are in the business of prospecting. And if you don't think you are in the business of prospecting, then you're in the wrong business. Because our business is prospecting on a consistent, constant, regular basis. And things that you might not think it's not in your line of scope, remember, we have referral fees. That's what referral fees are for. Okay? When sometimes people tell me, oh, I only do rentals, or I don't do rentals. Oh, great. I guarantee you somebody's going to be doing rentals in this office. And if you refer that, you probably get a little bit of money, but why not? You know? This is the kind of opportunities, when you see opportunities, and if it's way out of your scope, think about who can actually do this job from the people you know. That's why it's very important to know the people that you need to know in this business. And that's the reason why I'm always nice to every single person I meet, because you never know who's going to be the one helping you. You never know who's going to be the one that's actually going to take you to the next level. And that's another thing. We are always hesitant to invest in ourselves, but this is what we sell. Each and every one of us, we sell us. The more we improve, the more information we have that we can implement to our clients, and to our, and the law and the psychology that we learn. Like this morning, I actually learned something new. There's this book called Hardwiring Happiness. Have you heard of this? Has anyone heard of this book? Man, I'll tell you, this book is a life changer for me, because all my stress level went down based on this book. The fact that the idea that our surroundings, people's actions, creates reactions to us. And when you know and you understand exactly the psychology behind how you deal with people that are irate, angry, frustrated, all these negative things, that it doesn't have to enter you, because you have a better understanding of you. And having a better understanding of how you can frame your world the way you need to frame your world. So it's very important to actually understand, to actually spend time on yourself. So prospect for growth, but also grow yourself, because you're the person that sells to the next person. Everybody nowadays with the technology, would you agree that buyers can buy their own homes, sellers can sell their own houses, right? It's much easier than 20 years ago, right? Do you agree? I mean, if you're a buyer right now and you don't have an agent, you have access to inventory, right? Do you agree? Zillow, Realtor.com, I mean, name it, you have access to inventory. Knock on that door, I guarantee you, or call that phone number on the sign, if somebody is actually going to sell you that property without a buyer agent, right? So what makes you guys relevant? Well, the only reason why you guys are relevant is because people trust you. And the only reason why people trust you is because you've built up certain relationship with that person. But if you're the type of person that's very negative or don't know how to interact with people very well, you're limited to the amount of clients you're going to actually sell to. And sometimes even people who actually studies and learns about the skills in this business will never make it there, because they never change their attitude and their personality to get to that level. So when we're talking about learning about real estate, our business is easy, honestly. What's difficult is how do you deal with people with problems. And a lot of them do have problems. I mean, do you guys agree with me on this? A lot of people do have problems, right? I mean, and they put it on you like it's your fault somehow that their mother actually raised them this way. So that's my point. So when you can deal with that, that's actually very important. Success can be 4 different areas of your life. And the reason why I say 4 different areas is because you have the 4 areas that I feel that's very important for us to succeed. And the biggest problem, and you'll see this all the time, even the most successful people out there, the people that are billionaires and millionaires. If you notice, even Elon Musk, I mean, if you think about Elon Musk, he's got his own issues to deal with. He's got his own demons that he has to work with. He has his own insecurities that he has to deal with. He's been through relationship after relationship, because his focus is different than a lot of people have. And you know, you have your own purposes of what you're trying to do in life, but in order for you to have a balanced life, you have to look at these four areas: your relational relationships, your spiritual side of yourself, your financials, and physical. When you're looking at relational, right, this is how you interact with your community, this is how you interact with other people outside of yourself, right? And how are you perceived? Are you positive in general? Are you the type of person that people would want to be around? And that's one of the other things that I notice. We have our own like issues that we're dealing with, right? And the biggest problem that a lot of us have is we never dealt with it, even though we know it's there. So for me, having somebody guide me through the real estate part is one thing, but then I saw that same person actually, you know, partying with his clients, drinking, smoking, and I'm like, oh, this is not my thing. I mean, because like I said, my goals are different than yours, and it's different than my mentor. But my mentor was showing me like, oh, this is how you get clients. I was like, well, maybe that's one of the ways to get clients, but I want to do it my way of getting clients, and which means basically figuring out for myself what kind of things that I can improve on as a human being, and figuring out how I can translate that into somebody that would be able to kind of, I can relate to that person more. So there's certain people don't even want to have people around them. I mean, there's people like that. But can you imagine if you're that type of personality that you've figured out how to actually get to those type of people, and you get close to those people, your market all of a sudden changes. You have a bigger market to actually look at. So that's one part. And then you're looking at spiritual side of it. When I say spiritual, is anything to do with the mind, whether it's you're into meditation, or you're into, you know, yoga, or you're actually, you know, active in the church, you know, like you read the Bible, or you read your Quran, whatever it is, you know, whatever your faith is, whatever your beliefs are, it's following, making sure that your mind has time to digest what's around you. I look at like alone time as a reset, when you actually try to think about nothing or try to relax, because it gives you enough time to be able to reset. Even if you spend like 5 minutes, I don't know if you guys ever done that, where you get home and you just literally turn on the music, like very nice, whatever music that you listen to, and you kind of like just either be quiet, or with me, I'm actually like singing like my lungs out in the car, you know, just to actually let out all that energy that I still have, or like any frustrations I have with work, so then by the time I go inside my home, my mind's resetted, and I'm not like upset or angry from a previous scenario, and I can really truly spend time with my family. This is a very important aspect of what we're doing in regards to certain things. And this is just a suggestion, of course. I mean, you know, you do it the way you want to do it, but try to get a reset on your brain, because that's one of the things. I don't know if you've ever run into a situation, you're mad at somebody, and next thing you're yelling at somebody else. You know, it just moves from one energy to the next energy, and and it's not good, because when you're around your clients, you need to actually have time to actually reset your mind and your emotions, so that you can be not only real, but you can also be positive with your clients, because it's very important to actually stay positive with your clients. And the financial side, of course, you already know that. You have to have a specific number. My goal this year is $850,000, broken down in 5 different businesses that my wife and I actually are running. And we actually have everything like put together, like down to the last detail, exactly how we're gonna get a roadmap, how to get there. I know exactly what I'm gonna be doing on a daily basis. Every day, my wife and I spend about half an hour to an hour actually like going through whether or not we are on the path to the direction that we're trying to get to, which is that $850,000 on our financial side, right? Set something up like this for yourself. Set a particular number, break it down in terms of activities you're gonna need to be doing to actually get to those numbers. That's a quite important aspect. And the last part is physical. What good is you, what good will you be if you're not healthy? Everything begins there. Think about it. I mean, if you cannot walk, then you're gonna be in a wheelchair or maybe prosthetics, I don't know. I mean, if you cannot actually like do certain activities, it hinders you from everything else. So staying healthy is really everything that we have. That's like a wealth that you cannot replace. Even the most wealthiest people that are sick and not healthy would wish to give up all their money just to actually be healthy again and young and whatever it takes to actually be where they used to be, able to do certain things. So don't take it for granted, your health. Always have enough sleep, always eat, always, always eat the right foods and eat when you're supposed to eat. By the way, there's a rule that I have, and I'm 51 years old right now, and I feel like I'm in the better shape that I was like 20 years ago, and I was like 25, 30 pounds overweight. What I came to realize is before I get hungry, I eat. And I eat in smaller portions than I used to eat because I know my metabolism doesn't burn the calories as much as it used to. So, I kind of balance that out and I stay the weight I want to be, essentially. I don't go to the gym like some people do. It would be great. I think my kids are my gym, pretty much. I got like 6 kids, 3 of them are like little, so I get to do the horsey ride every night when I get home. On the bed. Anyway, implement plans. This is the second pillar, right? I talked about. How realistic is it, your goals? So whatever your goals are, look at it from where you are right now, what you've done in the past 12 months, and double that. This is the way I look at it. You want to challenge yourself, double that. So if you've done 3, do 6. If you've done 6, do 12. If you've done 12, do 24. And how do you actually make up for the time? Well, this is what we call efficiency, right? Be efficient with your time. Some people confuse that being efficient with people. Efficient with people don't work very well because people don't want to feel unimportant, like you're one of their many appointments. I've seen this. Like I have this one loan officer I was working with that one of my clients sent me 2 years ago, I think, and his email says busy schedule. That tells me a lot already. Like this loan officer who wanted to work with us, his email address is busy schedule. I mean, just reading that makes me feel like, oh, this guy doesn't have time for me, right? So,
Putting it out in the universe.
well, not even the universe. I mean, try reading that email address and you'll feel like, oh my gosh, would I want to be working with this person, right? And that's exactly what you don't want an image of you with your clients. So efficiency works with your time, works with what you actually do with your time, and effectiveness, and this is from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. By the way, I pretty much borrow everything, okay? I mean, I'm not this guru that created all these things. I've read a lot of books. Just like Tony Robbins, actually, I don't know if he's an avid book reader. I'm the same one, but I do my audiobooks like on a regular basis just because I feel like there's so much to learn out there that people already studied for many years. I'm like, why shortcut the process? This is kind of good. I don't have to, I don't have to recreate the wheel. I just need to actually understand exactly what they've already studied and learned. And if it applies to my life and applies to the way I deal with people, great. But hardwiring happiness, I can tell you right now, will change the way you think and will kind of lower your cholesterol level. By the way, I found out from several doctors, I've been asked, it's like, cholesterol level related to stress? Oh yeah, absolutely. Because our bodies create the cholesterol, and when we're stressed, the cholesterol apparently, the bad cholesterol apparently fixes the areas of your body and ends up actually like clogging your arteries, something like this. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I mean, this is what I found out. So stress is something important. I was like, well, if I want to live a long life, then I need to figure out how to remove stress, right? So that's one of the physical things that became part of my goal. So I started researching, figuring out how do I de-stress myself? How do I stay positive? So that hardwiring happiness came up because there's a process there that I've actually been implementing over the years, because I used to be more of a hothead back then, where some, if you cross me, I'm like, oh, in your face kind of thing, right? That actually allowed me to be able to kind of like back off and actually kind of like chill. So when people are angry around me, it doesn't really affect me. I just look at them like, like I look at it in a different perspective, and it doesn't stress me anymore. I mean, they could be doing or saying whatever they want to say. It doesn't affect me because I see it in a different perspective. So perspective is very important. Well, anyway, is it within a particular deadline? This is another thing. When you create your task or things that you need to do, okay, do 3 at a time, because our brain apparently only functions in focus, and you can only focus on 3 things at a time. Even 3 things is already difficult. Focus is really 1, isn't it? And luckily we have 1, 2, and maybe a third eye, and I don't know. But the point I'm trying to make is 3 things is what they've done a study of, that if you focus on 3 tasks in any given day, or any given time, so when you finish your 3 tasks, you create your next 3 tasks. So 3 tasks at a time. And also, of course, if you're going to be able to take care of those tasks that you set for yourself, that's part of your business plan to begin with, then you need to actually remove things that's already on your plate, that's what we call distraction. Things that are not important to your goal, okay? So one of the things that people say, well, what if I like to watch TV? Okay, great. Then include that on your goal, on your personal goal, maybe on your spiritual side of it. I don't know. But if that's what gets you off your mind and actually relaxed, and this is what it takes to actually have your mind, be in better scenario, yeah, then a portion of time that you would be watching TV, if that's that important to you, right? So it's very important for you to understand that looking at it from the physical sense, there's a goal, and then you have your spiritual sense, or your mind, keeping your mind clear, keeping your mind focused, and keeping your mind, put it this way, not cluttered in that sense. There's that goal, and then you have the other goal, basically, which is basically you're looking at the financial goals, having that set schedule, but looking at it from a deadline. Anything that you do has to have a deadline. And if you think you're not going to make a deadline and it's not something that is the most priority, and you think you won't be able to finish it, and it's not the most priority, take it off your plate. There are things that we think it's so important to do, but then you're not going to have the time for. Don't do it. I only actually do the tasks that I know that I can finish. If I know I cannot finish a certain task, I don't even start it. I only start something that I can finish. This is my one rule that I have. So if I get into something and I committed to something, it's 100% or nothing. 100% or nothing. If you start living your life this way, I can tell you, you're going to accomplish a lot more in your goals, and you're going to be able to achieve those goals based on that. So always have a deadline on anything that you do. If you don't set a deadline for certain things, then it's floating there, and you'll never get around to it. I can tell you right now. Think about the moment that you've actually set something to do and you didn't put a deadline, when by this time I would have, one of my goals was to actually read the Bible from the front to the back of the book, basically, and I gave myself a year to do it, right? And I said, okay, why am I doing this? Personal development. Wanted to see exactly what's in there that could be wisdom for me that I can apply to my life, which I found a lot of wisdom in it, and then I started and I finished in a year, exactly how I planned it. This thing has a... So, the other part of this, do you have the resources to achieve it? This is another thing. Guys, if you don't have the resources, then you need to either find the resources or put that goal further out so that you can get the resources. We're not always going to have the resources, but if you don't have the resources right now, and you're not going to be able to accomplish it, what's the point? You start it and you don't finish it because you don't have the resources. Do you have the right people to execute the plan? Well, the number one person is you, first of all. So let's focus on you first, right? Figure out how to improve you, And one of the things that I've seen is basically going through personal development. And this is where I saw myself improve based on personal development. I attended a lot of courses. I actually, even hired coaches specifically for me to improve myself and my way of approaching things. And what they do, they recommend books for me. And then I read that book, and then I apply the book. I usually read the book twice or three times even before I actually let it go. Because I need to know what I need to know. Because the first time, apparently, that you read a book, you only pick up like 10-15% of the actual knowledge that's in that book. The second time around, all of a sudden, things start to pop out even more. The third time is like the best, because now that you can see like 2/3 of it, the 1/3 is actually now all of a sudden popping out. You probably walk away with, I would say, 80-90% of that book. So, prospect for growth, the third pillar. See, it's very basic the way we have this, right? We're looking at like your plan, your implementation of the plan. But here's the thing. Some people like to work on activities that doesn't produce the results. Look, I'm not focused on the outcome, but I like to actually make my time more efficient, because we only have 24 hours. And if you look at 24 hours, 8 hours or 7 hours of it is in your sleep, like 2-3 hours of it is in your eating, whatever you need to do, personally. And and then the rest of it is whatever you're doing with your family. And you're really down to like 10 hours, and then you start eating away sleep hours, start eating away eating hours. And then that's why you have all these digestive problems, you have these migraine headaches, you're having all these issues. Well, it's because you're starting eating away on the other items that's actually also important in your life. So you have to understand the prospecting for our business is the lifeblood of our business. So that part has to happen on a regular basis. And I'm talking about every day. So if you don't have it on your schedule, like brushing your teeth, like I'm sure, you brush your teeth at least twice or 3 times a day, right? I mean, I'm assuming. And based on that, you have beautiful teeth, right? Well, the same thing with your finances, and you're in the real estate business. You have to be prospecting every day. Even to me, even on my day off, Sunday, my radar is like moving around, because you meet people all the time. And like I meet people at church, I meet people at the grocery store. I mean, I don't keep myself to limit myself, okay, I'm working this. I put that part of my social time, because our business is relationship based, right? How do you have relationship with people? You bump into people. You actually interact with people. Even as simple as a cashier at a grocery store could be a prospect. We don't even think about these things. But, if you're excited about certain things and you start talking to people here and there, you'll be surprised. I mean, how many employees I've sold from Home Depot? I mean, going to Home Depot, like people that are actually helping you, that kind of thing. And I start talking about real estate, and it's like, oh yeah, I don't own a house yet. It's great, and then they're showing me this and this. And next thing you know, like I get their phone number and I go home, and then like a week later or 3 days later, I call them up. I'm like, hey, you talked about this. We could work on this part. Why don't you come into my office? I've done this plenty of times, guys. And people think like you're only limited to the people you know. Well, no, you can meet people out there and make it an opportunity for you to actually be able to prospect with them and learn what they need, and then provide that need. Even at the doctor's office, the nurses that I work with over there, when they get you in and they're like, take your blood pressure. So I talked to this one nurse who's like, I don't own a house, because, I was like, how do you like your work? And so when you start talking to people about what they do, they tend to actually talk to you, ask you about what you do. And when you get a chance that they ask you what you do, then you tell them, hey, this is what I do. And sometimes I don't even tell them what I do. Rather than telling them what I do, I tell them a story about what I've done. See, to me, people remember you more when you tell stories. This is a very important part of our business. Guys, I can tell somebody all day long that I've done this and I've done that, like I'm in the real estate business and 30 years. No, until I tell them a nice story that it will resonate to them somehow. And you can tell if they're like, wow, that's pretty cool. He's like, yeah, I actually work with nurses. And one time we were doing loan at 1 o'clock in the morning. True story, because they're on the third shift. No, right? Me a nurse, they're like, they can relate because, they have like 3 or 4 different shifts in a day. And I was telling them, like, I met a client of mine who's a nurse at 1 o'clock in the morning to actually do the loan and write the offer and everything. They were like, wow, that's kind of cool. I would love to be that person that somebody cares about. You see? So it was not about just letting them know, hey, listen, I do real estate, I can help you. And I mean, this is most of the time what people say. But what if you tell them a story about what you do, what you can do for them, And I think it makes a big difference in that part. This thing keeps turning off, so excuse me. Wait a minute, we're still here. Are you calling past clients, prospect to stay in touch with them? This is another thing. How many of you guys sold properties and you haven't been in touch with the people that you sold to for the past 3 weeks? I would say 6 weeks is a good number. If you have any past clients you haven't been in touch with for 6 weeks, then you're not doing your job. 6 weeks is the magic number. 1 month is just like a routine. 2-3 weeks is like, don't harass me too much, especially if they don't like you much. By the way, I call people I don't like because hopefully eventually they get to like me. I mean, but you reach out to everybody. You just don't know who has the need, right? That's the whole idea behind this. You don't know who has the need. So you reach out to everybody. So if it makes sense in that part. And then, are you active in your community? This is another thing. How many of you guys have gotten clients from your community? There you go. See, it's almost a given. If you don't have a community, then start one. Because communities are so nice because, people have a tendency of wanting to belong to something. Whatever your interest is, whether you like biking, get into a community of bikers. I mean, if you like, whatever it is, hiking, get into community of hikers, because these are new people that you'll be meeting if you're not out there meeting with people as much. This is another way of actually bringing in the prospecting side. Are you staying in touch with your family and friends? Oh yeah, this is another thing I was talking. There's people out there that I know that have family members, but yet they're not buying from you because you happen to have a dysfunctional family, and believe me, I mean, I'm guilty of that. All of us actually have our own dysfunctional family, but the point is, if they're not buying from you, you need to actually figure out exactly why they're not buying from you, and sometimes it's because they know you as a person like 20 years ago and this is what you did, and people never forget, that kind of stuff. But then when you start doing good things for others, eventually that kind of supersedes that and everything gets better. So, and then are you willing to go out of your comfort zone? This is another thing. Guys, you know what? Our business, if you were to succeed in this business, you are going to be in places and people that are not that easy to work with, and it's going to be uncomfortable. Or being able to reach out to certain people that you haven't been able to reach out to for a while, or you might think. One of the things that kills our business is assuming how people behave. That, they're going to reject me, or they're going to do this for me. There's I think her name is Mel Robbins, and she talks about this 5-second rule. Within 5 seconds, if you want to overcome these kind of issues that you're having with being uncomfortable, meeting with a person, within 5 seconds, just make a decision and go and do it. So this is actually a very, very good way of kind of creating a rule for yourself. And it's interesting because we don't make rules enough for us to actually grow our business. But you gotta set some standards for yourself, because honestly, if you're gonna go day by day, that time just flies by, and you've seen it like in a whole year time frame, you haven't sold any house, or you only sold one house or two house or whatever. The reason why time just zooms by is because you haven't really broken it down to a day-to-day science of exactly what activities would need to be part of your habit. You've heard it saying before, success is a habit. Well, no, it's not just a habit. It's a series of habits that interconnect to create a tsunami of business coming your way. Which means basically one activity is not enough to actually trigger it. It takes about 5, 6, 7 different activities on a daily basis, implemented on a regular basis, that you will end up with a lot of clients. And the way I look at it also is the way you're going to get more clients is you need to be not only in touch with your people, not only you're in touch with the people that already know you. You have to have a standard. Okay, like on a weekly basis, I need to add like 3 people to my database. You might think it's not a lot, right? It's not a lot. 3 people in a week, and it's not even one a day. One every other day you meet somebody. Or what's the probability you bump into somebody? Right? I mean, this is post-COVID, right, guys? I mean, you're not hiding in your little shells at this point. Because if you are, then Zoom calls, for crying out loud, or make phone calls. I mean, you know, if you want to hide in your shell, make a lot of phone calls, right? But the point I'm trying to make to you is, get out there, make a rule. Even 1 a week. You know how many people you can add to your database on 1 a week? You tell me, how many weeks in a year? There you go. So imagine if you've been in the business 3 years, you should have over 156 people, right? That's my point. It didn't take much, 1 a week that you're actually adding to your database. That's actually having 0 on your database, right? Full-time job. This is your full-time thing, and you cannot meet 1 person a week. It sounds difficult, right? But it is, because we're distracted. We're focused on other things. We're not focused on the business. We're focused on ourselves, on the things that we react to everything. But when you make your life intentional, right? You set that plan, and on a daily basis, you got it broken down on the daily basis what activities you're going to do. You watch your business grow 3 times much larger based on the fact that you are focused on a day-to-day activity on the business. See, what we're doing is we're reacting. Today, I feel like making calls. And then tomorrow morning you wake up, oh, my back is hurting. Maybe I'm not going to call today. You know, oh my goodness, my back is hurting. So I'm not going to make a call again. The next day, like, oh, my wife is yelling at me. I'm not in the mood to make phone calls. We got all these distractions or excuses, whatever you want to call it, why you don't want to do something uncomfortable, which is making the phone calls, right? But even if you made 5 phone calls a day, 5 days a week, for 50 weeks, take 2 weeks vacation, for crying out loud, okay? That's 25 calls a day. I mean a week, 25 calls a week. Multiply that by 50 weeks. That's a lot of phone calls all of a sudden. See, we don't really see the compound effect of on a daily basis what you're doing. Like I said, it's exactly what I was talking about. See, right now, if your teeth is rotting because you haven't been brushing for 6 months, it's like you in real estate, your business is rotting because you haven't been actually making your prospecting even 5 calls every single day. Stay consistent. Now, if you cannot do 5, do 3. Please, do 3. I mean, you know, at least something. 3 calls won't even take you, what, 7 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes? By the way, when I make a rule of making calls, I put it for 20 because I count voicemails. You know why I count voicemail? Because when I call people, I usually call them to invite them to an event that I have. And after them not returning my call like 5, 6, 7, 8 times, their mind is actually brainwashed to actually call me because they're like, shoot, Mark's been calling me for this past year. He called me at least 8 times, 10 times, and I never called him back. I'm rude. Of course you're rude, because I thought about calling you and you didn't even actually return a call, right? And eventually that same people, guess what? They call me and they're like, hey, my cousin's looking to buy a house. So voicemail counts, right? Now, you can do a lot more than 20 phone calls if all you got is voicemail. I mean, think about it. Not even 15 minutes of your day spent on that, right? But to me, it's about adding value. When you're making a call to somebody, we have a tendency of telling them what we want. Hey, are you looking to buy a house right now? That's about me, not about you, right? But if I call you to invite you to an event, is it about you or is it about me? So if I'm going to call you to invite you to an event, I'm not going to tell you, oh, I'm calling you to go to my seminar because I need more people there. That means I'm inviting you for my purposes, right? But if I called you and say, hey, listen, I'm inviting you to a seminar because I think you would learn how to stage your property properly, because you mentioned to me at some point you're thinking about selling your house. It might be a good idea for you to learn more about this. Nobody's gonna be selling you anything there, no obligation to do anything. So now I'm actually giving you something of value. You see the difference? It's the same invite, but it's just a different approach, right? But the reality of it is, if you're gonna convince anybody and you want to be influential for anyone, you need to understand that your influence is based on what that person can get out of you. There's so many times that we focus on what we can get. I'm sorry, there's the sleep mode here is on, I think. There's so many times that we have in our lives where we are focused on our goals and we forget that people are not aligned with our goals. Am I right on this? I mean, we forget sometimes, like, oh, and how many times, if you're in real estate and you're asking people if you're looking to buy a house, there's no problem, nothing wrong with that. But to me, that's actually a draw. That's an emotional withdrawal from that person. Because that's the reason why we have this reputation of like I'm smelling someone looking to buy. They're like hound dogs looking for people to actually find. It doesn't work. It's not very effective, okay? So, yeah. So, adjust the things that you're doing with your business right now. If you're looking to double your income between last year, hopefully it's not zero, because you'll end up with the same number. So if it's not zero, okay, try to double it this year, which is actually a good goal to set. And if that is the case, you have to be willing to adjust to the way you do business. And this is the reason why I'm bringing up these ideas to you guys, because this is the biggest mistakes that I did in the first 4 years of my career in the business, and I was ready to quit. 4 years, I sold 4 houses, basically. And I was like, oh, man, just to pay for those dues are getting really expensive. So I was like, maybe I shouldn't be in this business. Maybe I wasn't meant for me to be in this business. But yet I actually tried to get information. And one day I saw this one guy at my office, like, oh my gosh, this guy's doing very well. I want to copy him. And so that's how I ended up with a mentor. Not because they were assigning me a mentor or someone's actually pushing me to be. No, I saw the opportunity to look at somebody and say, hey, listen, I'll take 10%. I'll take 10% of commission here. I mean, you can keep the 90. I just want to actually be able to work with you. And the guy's like, is this guy insane? He's only taking 10%. 60 transactions in the first year. Why? Because the idea wasn't to make the money. My idea was to actually get the experience. And that experience of 60 transaction equates to 6 years of someone selling 10 houses a year. See, people don't see it that way, right? But once I learned that knowledge, every year he gives me a piece of paper, blank, and it's like, how much you want to make? The reason why is because he knows that I'm producing more, that he doesn't want to actually lose me. So, you remember one thing, there's a marketability effect. See, the biggest problem sometimes people have is, and all of us are guilty of this, we're looking at our cost so much that we're not looking at the benefits. That old saying of like penny wise, pound foolish. We're very careful with our pennies, but I guess British pound, because it was actually, I guess this was a British saying, I guess, pound foolish. Basically, you're missing out on all the dollars and pounds that are coming in because you're focused on those little things. What you got to understand, the biggest effect of real estate in me when I actually was selling a lot of houses is the fact that I was able to get, in a short period of time, a lot of transactions in my belt. That's one part. The second part is I actually hang around with this person, and I was not even a smoker. I'm still not a smoker to this day. And the only time I catch him is in a smoke break or in a coffee room. So I actually ended up drinking coffee, which I never drank before, and I ended up smoking just so I have an excuse to be right next to him and ask him questions. And he gave me 3 big pieces of advice that to this day it resonates to me. And one of them is the fact that when you have a desire and it turns into an obsession, you find success. This is one of the lines that I've always kept in my heart, because I know that this makes a big difference in our lives. When your desire to succeed becomes an obsession, what does an obsessed person look like? Someone who's focused, right? I mean, we think about obsession as a negative thing, but if you're focused on the right things, you're obsessed about being healthy. You're obsessed about actually having mental wellness. You're obsessed about actually having financial wellness. You're obsessed about actually having great relationships. Those are positive things, but there's nothing wrong with those. Why? Because it actually gets us to the goal of being the best, for me at least, being the best father, being the best, best husband to my wife, and actually being the best son to my parents, right? Because I'm focused on those things that I know that matters, that I know that makes a difference. And that obsession to that point it catches me, and that's really important, by the way. Whatever you're doing last year, you gotta do something different, otherwise you're gonna have the same results. So this is the reason why I'm giving you guys ideas. Hey, listen, if you haven't been doing this, try this. But if you still haven't been doing this, it's great to be sitting here and learning this thing. You guys already know, honestly. I already know. But sometimes it takes us to have a reminder. Hey, gotta be doing this. You gotta be focused. So the other one that he had mentioned to me is focus on relationships and money will chase you. I am telling you right now, that statement cannot be more true, because the relationships always brought me income. I never had to worry about where the money comes from. The money keeps coming in. The business keeps coming in. Because I had so many relationships over the years, thousands and thousands of people I've helped. I mean, at this point, I've sold over 1,000 houses, and to get to the 1,000 transactions, you had to have known more than 1,000 people, right? And some of those people never even bought a house with me and referred me somebody. See, what we're always focused on is like, oh, you're going to be buying a house? Okay, great. You're going to be buying a house? Oh, great. You're going to be buying, great. But what you don't realize is, oh, you have all these people you know. If you happen to like me and you happen to want to work with me, right? Try me out first with your sister. Try me out first with your mother. Try me out first with your cousin, right? Before you even start doing business with me. And I've had that happen many, many times. Because people already know people out there. The only question is, are you going to be the one that's going to be referred? So your ultimate goal is to get referred, if you think about it. How easy is it for you to try to sell a house to someone when they referred you to their friend? All of a sudden, that trust that they have with their best friend transfer over to you. Because now, the name, and by the way, little caveat here, whatever you do, don't mess it up, because you just cut off you cut off a whole tree branch that you could have actually gotten. That's the whole point. There's a huge responsibility for us to do well in this business, and that huge responsibility starts from you caring and understanding the significance of your work, that you really, really care about the people. Because if you are labeled as somebody that just goes after money, that's where it ends. And the problem is, a lot of the times, if we're struggling for money, we look at our clients sometimes with a dollar sign on their forehead. Oh, I can make $3,000, $10,000 from, this is $15,000. Oh, I don't take less than $500,000 properties. I mean, I don't, look, I'm sorry to say, man, I mean, like, all of us start out somewhere, and not all of us are gonna be in the $500,000 and above, right? I mean, unless you're like selling so many houses, then you can kind of like, you know, cherry pick a little bit. If you have 60 clients you're working with, work with the $500,000 and then refer them to your team. The rest of the less than 500,000, fine. Best use of your time, that's fine. But to me, I don't label my clients as dollar signs. I look at my client as individual people, whether they're ready now to buy a house or they have horrible credit, doesn't matter. I look at them as human beings, and I gauge them based on their motivation. You can have someone who's a millionaire but doesn't have a motivation to buy, and you'll be spinning your wheels forever and not go anywhere. Or you can have someone who's looking only for a $100,000 property, but they're really, and have horrible credit, right? But they really want to buy so badly, and they're willing to do the work that it takes for them to get there, and they will work with you. And not only that, they look at that and they say, wow, you don't care about what I'm buying. What you care about is me and my family. Here's a referral. That's where you get the referral from. It's the attitude that you have coming into the picture. And that's the reason why those adjustments that you need to do on how you do business last year has to happen this year. Because if you don't make those adjustments, your business is going to stay the same as last year. One thing I can tell you, when I saw markets shifting, my wife and I sat down and we said, okay, this is where the market is going. This is our target. This is what we're going to actually focus on this year. So we started like aligning our business plan towards what the market is doing. And you have to be able to adjust your market as such, because right now there's less properties than last year that was selling or the year before. Am I right? If that is the case, how do you actually shift your way of doing business? Well, if it takes you 20 calls to actually get one lead last year or 2 years, then you need to make 40 calls. You see, it's just a matter of actually the amount of effort that you'll do, and how do you make it more efficient? This is what I saw in our business, that when I saw that and I said, wait a minute, if my hourly rate is a certain amount, right? My hourly rate, I look at my hourly rate as $250 an hour, right? And I look at my wife's $250 an hour, right? We start hiring people at $7 an hour. And it's like, man, what a trade-off. You know, now I can actually focus on $250 an hour work, which is looking at my business and what I'm doing on a daily basis that's actually producing that $250 an hour. And then I laser focus on that area and make that happen the way I need to make it happen. So, adjusting to the market. One of the things I noticed also is the social media platform. We are in a social media platform, and if you notice, I'm learning technology. 51 years old man, still learning technology. I'm telling you, I mean, for a while I was out of this thing and I'm getting back into it. Why? Because technology is going to be us. It's going to be part of us. And it's already part of us. You know, they're talking about AI replacing people. No, that's not my lifetime. I'm sorry to say, even though people think like, oh, it's going to, yeah, of course it's going to replace it. Yeah, and nobody's working at that point and just collecting checks in their bank account. Sure, tell me when that happens, then then I'll believe you, because that's probably the direction it will end up being in a society where people don't need to work because everything is done by technology. It's going to get to the point. Probably people will be paid not to work at that point because you might disrupt the technology that's creating such progress in this world. I mean, that you can get to that point too, right? But the point I'm trying to make is you have to understand that the way of doing business now, what relates to you and what you need to adjust, the social media is there, the platform of social media, but then don't get sucked into that either because it's a quite expensive endeavor to go into. Real estate is still personal, guys. I guarantee you, if you meet enough people out there, face to face, you will outsell anybody in this room. If you actually are meeting people on a regular basis, like different people, on a regular basis, and you know exactly how to create that relationship, you know exactly how to create that trust, where they would want to refer business to you, I guarantee you, you'll outsell everybody in this room. This is how important it is for you to understand that our business is always back to that basic of this interaction within each other, trying to figure out exactly how you can use the technology to be able to do so. So I don't know what you have on your Apple, but I switched to Android because there was more open source app available in a, I guess, Android phone.
Yeah, Android market.
Yeah, on the Android market. So the app that I was using is AutoText. So hopefully you guys have that on your Apple. But it's so beautiful. It makes me want to cry actually because it's so beautiful. You know, I AutoText on an Android phone. So this AutoText allows you to put everybody's birthday and anniversaries so they can get a personal text message for you every year for the rest of your life. It's beautiful, as long as your phone is on, of course. If you run out of battery, then that's your problem. But that's technology, right? And then you have, I tell you, emails to me is not, it's more work than anything because there's so many emails you get on a daily basis, don't you? I mean, but if you get a text message from somebody that's you saved on your phone, it's so nice because, you know, like somebody just greeted your happy birthday, right? They wouldn't know if it's an auto text or it's a real text. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, whoever's listening to my friends and family, I personally text you guys, okay? You're listening to this right now. I do, okay? But yeah, auto text actually is very useful. And so you can organize it in a way, if you have a weekly activity that you're doing, you can put it there, so then it's automatic. If you need to get in touch with a person once every 6 weeks, okay? If you're not able to call, for crying out loud, get this thing downloaded and put them on your process. So every what, 36 weeks? You have like one for the first week, so it doesn't look like it's like the same text every time, you know? Put 6 different variation of text message, so you'll be in touch with them by text at least, if you don't have time to call. I mean, that's what technology is for. Yeah. I wouldn't do this AI thing that someone's calling like, you know, like robotic or whatever, and it sounds like real, you know, like your voice. It's not, that technology is not there yet. So, but yeah, the text messaging, the emails, I mean, you know, the invites, all those things can be automated. You can automate a lot of these things nowadays, you know? So, are you willing to adjust your time to become more productive and learn to delegate certain tasks? Here's another part. If you're doing the task of putting together your own social media stuff because you're in a budget, I understand, right? But if you have a full-time work, get someone else to do a lot of your mundane stuff and free yourself from that and just focus on the prospecting side, because you only have even a smaller amount of time. If you only have like 8 hours or 10 hours a day, you only have like 2 hours or 3 hours if you have a full-time job somewhere, if you're lucky, a day. And the 2 hours should be spent on just making phone calls and reaching out to people, because that's the quickest way, right? The other way is actually having social events. Like I said, if you're not part of a community, then throw your own party. It's simple as that, because now you're actually bringing people in and creating interactions with the people that you have around you. Make sense?
Like a VA, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, like a VA, and that's what I've been doing actually. I've been actually focusing on the VA because I see the market going that direction, and they already, I mean, we have the whole system set up, like literally like turnkey. Like when I hire a VA, we go through like a screening process, you know, and then from that screening process, we have actually a whole training process, and then from that training process, then they actually go on board. So it's a whole process that's already been created. To create that process, shoot, it took us probably like at least, what, 1,000 hours? I mean, it's a lot. I mean, you see the details that we need in our business for us to be able to actually function, between just literally putting social media posts, I mean, to video editing, to all these things. I mean, it's specialized areas of the business where you can actually hire somebody than spending hours trying to figure out for yourself. You see? I mean, for me, it's worth my $7 if I'm actually, my focus for my 2 hours that I'm available is making phone calls to the people that I know and actually inviting them to an event or going to an event, adding people on my database. I mean, going back to the most basic, and you will find that 90%, even from last year, if you actually look at all the people that you sold the house to, okay, they came from that realm. Referred, or somebody you know, or somebody that actually bought from you already. Those three areas. Someone referred it, somebody actually bought it with you before, and somebody you met that you have a relationship with. Those are the three areas that you're gonna find 90% of your business. So if you've sold in the past 2 years, let's say 8, 10 houses, right? Just look back, see where that money, the business came from. It didn't come from strangers. It came from people that you already know. Can you imagine if you just multiplied that 20% of that effort that you use and make that 80% of your time, and then delegate the 80% that you're doing that's a distraction and put it on the $7 an hour time, all of a sudden you're, what, 3-4 times more productive. It's not a rocket science. I think you already know that too. The only difference is someone has to remind you, hey, do something different. Because if you're gonna do the same thing you did last year, you're gonna do worse. Because the market is shifting to the worst. It's shifting from, let's say, 100,000 properties sold to like 30,000 properties sold. I know this because I have a friend of mine who owns a third-party appraisal company, and based on the number of appraisal ordered, you'll see exactly where the market is going. And 2/3 of his business went out the window. So now he's actually looking at it, okay, how about BPOs? You know, broker pricing opinions, right? So he set up a whole software now, shifting, adjusting the market. You have to adjust to the market, and that's exactly what he did. He adjusted his business to the market and picked up a huge client that actually does BPOs for banks, and now he's picking up that side for not an appraisal, but a broker pricing opinion software. He created the software, and now he's having big companies, the banks actually use his software to be able to reach out to agents like us to be able to do the BPOs, because bankers don't want to pay $500, $600 for an appraisal. They want to pay $50 to $100 for somebody like us, with the promise that they're gonna send us foreclosure properties. That's all the promise. And I tell you one thing, that's another part. In the foreclosure world, what I found are two things: your connections and how you meet your connections. So the connections, what I did in 2011, I came in a little late on the foreclosure market because I was doing all the short sales. I was getting a lot of short sales because nobody wanted to do them. I was like, bring it over here, I'll do it. So I did a lot of short sales, like over 130, 150 short sales that I was doing. But then I saw the foreclosure market. I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. How do I apply the similar face-to-face thing? And I started going to these events. They had like 5-star in Dallas, Texas, and then they have one in Miami, and they have one in Palm Desert in California. So I started going to these places, started meeting the bankers, and one day I met a person that was distributing foreclosure properties, but he's the head of the whole department. Like, all the asset managers work for him. And I ended up actually meeting him at a party. I was like, oh, this is so cool. You know, so we're hanging out. And then, like, you know, and he actually had some personal issues. So then, he became single. So like, oh, why don't you be my friend? Like next thing you know, I'm like hooking them up and trying to get them friends because this is relational, right? And then one day he looked at me like, Mark, I like you. Have you done foreclosures before? And I was honest, no. I was like, okay, I'll give you the first one. If you do a good job, I'll send you the rest. I was like, okay, great. That's how I got my foreclosures. Even though I came in very late, guess what? It still applies in that type of business. And foreclosure market is going to come up. You know it's coming up, right? So it boils down to the same thing again. How do you meet these people that would be the one assigning these assets? Because you're just a name and a number on their computer. Just like you actually making cold calls to people that are looking to sell a house. You're just a name and a number to them that's harassing them half the time, right? So you gotta actually differentiate yourself. How do you differentiate yourself? Well, if you meet them outside of the context of real estate, yes, then you're gonna actually see results in that. But you don't expect results to produce if you're not willing to meet people out there. That's why I delegate work to other people to do rather than me doing the work myself. And then I can focus on just that area. And even my wife actually will tell you. She's like, Mark, I don't see you really work. I'm like, what do you mean? You see me talking to people all day long. But that's not work. I was like, yeah, it is work. You know how much energy that you actually take to talk to somebody, and sometimes they're like difficult on the phone, and you're still there sitting there like kind of like, okay, let's go. Yeah, but you know what? I make it fun because the way I look at it, all of us have like a dark side to us, and all of us have like a light side to us. I try to bring the best out of people. This is the way I look at it, and I enjoy it. I enjoy talking to people. Even the negative one, I turn them into positive ones. Like after a while, they realize like, oh wow, okay. It's so funny because if you learn how to actually talk to people in regards to getting them to see themselves, they behave. It's kind of interesting because like when you're talking to people, right, and you want them to become more positive, right? I've done a scenario where sometimes a person tells me like, oh, like I'm not really into whatever that they're not into. Like I'm not into joking around, let's say, right? And I tell them like, oh, okay. You mean to say you're not into joking around? So sometimes I just like repeat what they say, validate, and eventually they catch up. They're like, oh wow, am I really sounding like that? And I've caught people this way. I don't know if you've ever done this, but try actually like mirroring or repeating what they say or validating what they say. And after a while, if it's negative and you keep validating what they say, they'll realize to themselves that they're being negative. And then they start adjusting themselves. You don't have to do anything. This is actually a part of psychology that you'll see and how it benefits you when you're actually talking to certain people about real estate, about anything. It's just like seeing where when you're talking to a person and you're trying to get them to work with you in a more positive, have a more positive conversation. When they're being negative, repeat to them like you need to say exactly what they say, and eventually they catch on. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to say, "Oh, you're being negative." I mean, I've seen this before. Like, "Oh, you're being," I'm like, "No, you don't have to point out that's judgmental. Just validate what they say, and eventually they'll say, "Oh man, I'm being negative." They'll say it themselves. You don't have to say it to them. You allow them to judge themselves by mirroring. This is a very important aspect of psychology, and this is something that you can actually research about how you actually can validate people, and you can turn that negative like energy they have into a more positive one. So are you willing to correct and adjust your plans to the market? And this is something I already talked to you guys about. The adjustment has to happen now. Don't wait until 3 months from now, 6 months from now, when there's no money in the bank. Because at that point, get a full-time job and then work on this on a part-time basis. Because it's hard to work with no money. I can tell you right now. It's hard to function with no money. Because if you're gonna get yourself into that situation, it's not worth it. So, we're looking at this. According to Darwin's Origin of Species, it is not the most intellectual of the species that survives. It is not the strongest that survives. But the species that survives is the one that is able best to adapt and adjust to the changing environment in which it finds itself. This is how you need to look at your business. Your business will succeed if you know how to actually change within the markets. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because my business in 2005, the one I did 92 transactions in 1 year, I did 75 transactions on a down market. I should be somewhere around 30 or 40 because the market has changed. What I had done is I adapted to short sales that nobody wanted to pick up. And I started selling a lot of short sales where everybody's, getting out of the business. And I got referrals. I got probably 12 referrals from 8 real estate agents we're getting out of the market. Gave them referral fees. See, even your own folks here can be an advocate for you to actually grow your business. This is the whole idea. Keep your mind open to the ideas of business can come from anywhere that you see. Just because we always think the competitor, different company competitor. No. Be friends with them, and eventually if they're getting out of the business, they'll give you the business because they like you. Because you're not one of the only ones that has a different way of thinking. And also, when the market is changing right now, which it has, you can see the changes that are happening, right? I mean, we are in a uncertain time where you don't know. I mean, the prices of your eggs, your food has gone up. I mean, everything has gone up. Gas, everything has gone up, right? It's only a matter of time where people's finances are going to start to crack. And then you're going to start seeing a lot of people needing to modify their mortgages so they can actually afford to live, or they're going to start losing their homes. This is the direction this market is going at this point. I don't see it another way. Unless you can see it another way, let me know, because I would love to hear from you. But that's what I'm seeing. So if that is what I'm seeing, I don't know what you're seeing, then there's an opportunity on that side to start helping people. Open up the door for conversations, because a lot of my loan modifications that I did for free, by the way, I never charged a single person, and I did 86 loan modifications for free. And why is it for free? Because my knowledge in real estate, I gave them, and they said, how much do I owe you? I said, how much does it cost for you to refer a business? Nothing? Okay then, keep me in business. Send me referrals. And that attitude that I had was 3 times more, 4 times more, even 10 times more that came back, because all those people now actually 86 of them feel like I did something great in their life. I was able to save their home from foreclosing. Now they can afford to stay there longer. They don't have to sell the house. They don't have to change their life. I mean, they owe their lifestyle to me. Why? Because I feel that if you made money at some point with anybody that you made money on, you also have to understand that you have to also give back. And so the way I did it is this, right? I looked at that and said, is this an opportunity for me to help? But this is also an opportunity for me to teach someone how to refer business to me. This is the importance of the ideology of being able to adjust to the changing market. Right now, the market is starting to change. What do you look for? You look for people that are actually not ready, because when they get ready, it's too late. You're just a commodity to them. Before they're ready to buy a house, you need to be already in their lives, helping them in some ways. So what I do with people that are still renting properties, even they're not ready to buy a house, why don't you come into the office? Let's sit down. Let's plan. You don't have to buy anything right now. Your lease is not up for 8 months from now. But let's sit down and plan. Let's look at exactly how much you need for closing. Let's look at exactly how much down payment looks like, where the opportunities we can find, like grants or anything like that for first-time home buyers. Let's look at exactly what kind of properties are out there. Let's look at properties that that, that since your relative is actually a contractor, we could actually, look at properties that needs rehab, like rehabilitation loan, like, I'm great. Let's look at the different loan programs that are out there. Just learn. So at least and then 8 months from now, you don't have to keep renting. Interest rates have gone down. Actually, it's a good story. The other day, I was talking to a client of mine who bought a house like 8 months ago with me. And they got an interest rate at almost 8%, I think. Yeah, almost at 8%. It's like a crazy interest rate. But they bought the house for $380. Put 5% down. Came back to me and said, hey, can you help me figure out how to get the rates, lowered? 8%. Yeah, it's a 6.25 right now, great. Can you tell me how much my house is worth? Oh, $495,000 in 7 months. Oh, wow, this is great. On my way out of that appointment, and we were literally in the parking lot, saying goodbye to the person. There was a person following me. It's this client that we were supposed to work together, and she didn't buy a house. For the past 2 years, we've been in and out and in, and the last time we spoke to each other was like 7 months ago. And she says to me like, oh, Mark, I'm sorry to bother you, I knew you were the client. No, they just left, so they just left. And I came up to her, like, she's like, well, I know we haven't bought a house with you. We haven't bought a house at all. What's the rates look like? I was like, interest rate looks good right now. I mean, it's much better than 7 months ago. I mean, I have a client and I didn't tell him this client, but I have a client that we recently like even bought a house. It was like worth $390, and now it's $495. And by the way, do you remember that house was worth $325 2 years ago? That same house is about $500,000. I was like, you've been procrastinating this whole time. Oh my gosh, she's like here. I mean, like inside her, she's like getting eaten up, right? And I was like, how come you haven't done anything all this time? And she's like, you know what? I really got to get something done because I can't rent anymore. I didn't have to say anything more. Now she's the one actually calling me up, it's like, hey, Mark, what else do you need? What else do you need? So I can actually start preparing these. Their leases expire like, I think like in August or something. But now is the time. Now is always the time. But the biggest difference is stories. You tell people stories, right? And I told them a true story. I didn't tell them it's not a client, but I told them, hey, a client of mine just bought 7 months. I mean, I'm not making this up. It's for real, right? And it kind of created like a burning desire for her to do something now. And now she's the one reaching out. This, to me, is adjusting the way you look at the business. You need to start thinking this way. You need to start poking. The people that you don't think that might even be buying a house, right? What if you're the one who creates that energy for them to really want to do something? By telling them a good story. But of course, you can borrow my story. There's no big deal. I mean, I'll tell you all the stories I can. You can borrow my stories all the way, because that's what I used to do when I was doing the business. I was borrowing my mentor's stories. And the way I did, I didn't even sell me, I sold him. And the business just keeps coming in because it's like, people are like, it's like referring a doctor. It's like, like, oh, this is a great doctor. And then they come in there and they sit and wait, Yeah. I tell them like, I said, my boss doesn't really have a lot of time, but I tell you, I know school district was very important to you, and he knows a lot about the school districts. But I don't know what his schedule looks like. What's your schedule look like? Can you give me 2 times that you're available? Oh, I'm available like tomorrow at like 5 o'clock or something. Let me check with him. He's not even in the room. So I'm like, yeah. Let me check with him and find out. And I'll put him on hold for like 30 seconds. Like, you know what? I think he might be able to make time for you. But can you call me, let me know if you're running late? Because he's actually like rescheduling his time so that he can just meet with you. Sense of urgency, sense of importance, but not me. I wasn't focused on me. See, the biggest killer of our own business is our own ego. That's why it's hard for us to actually hire a coach because we think we already know. Of course you already know. But who cannot keep you aligned? Because we're all grew up with teachers, right, teaching us, and they're teaching us how to be employees. They never taught us how to be independent entrepreneurs and, and business owners. Right? Think about it. I mean, think about the way we were programmed. Think about the way we were programmed. Were we programmed to be business owners? Or were we programmed to work for someone?
For 4 years, 40 hours a week.
Thank you. Whose agenda is that? Whose plan is that? Somebody else's. Now you have an opportunity to create your plan. Why don't you do it? Out of the 23 or 30 people that showed up here last time, I think only like 6 of them that actually sent me their business plan. I was like, wow, surprised. I'm like, there should be more people actually doing it. Look, you have an opportunity to actually engage and hold yourself accountable. And half those people that showed up last time didn't show up this time. This is the problem, consistency on a regular basis. Look, I'm only here once a month. Actually, the next time I'll be here on April 1st, right? Look, you might think that I don't know a lot about the business, but I've been doing this for 30 years. I never really worked for someone without getting fired. Because I cannot be employed. Because I cannot run somebody else's agenda. It has to be something that I actually intentionally want to do. The minute someone tells me, oh, you didn't beg for your job, I'm like, look, if you don't see the value in me, I don't need to be here. It's okay. I will bring the value where I know there's people that will appreciate it. This is the way I look at it. So the whole idea that I'm here today for you guys is the whole idea that I want to share this with you. And if you get something out of this, can you imagine if we were doing this on a regular monthly basis, what it looks like, how your mind starts to shift, how you start to improve your way of doing business. Because it's just because you know it doesn't mean that you apply it. This is the saying of Stephen Covey from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, right? To know and not to do is really not to know. Because what's the point of knowing if you're not going to implement the things that you actually learn? This is my point, right? If you can take away one thing out of this, is this: consistent input into the most productive part of your activities in real estate. That's what you need to focus your energy on. That's it. That one piece. And once you get that one piece done, right? Just one. I'm telling you, just one. Work on start with 3 phone calls a day. And if you can do that, start making 5 phone calls a day. And if you still can do that, then start making 10 phone calls a day. Oh, you don't have enough people in your database? Start showing up to events and meeting people out there in the events. Whether it's events, community activities, volunteering, fundraising, whatever it is. Actually, fundraising is kind of fun because you see the people that are raising the funds and the people that are donating. A lot of times when you see big donations, usually those people have big houses. Big donations equal big houses. Big houses mean equals bigger commission. I mean, the way I look at it, why fish in the ocean where you can fish in your own pond that has a lot of fish? What there's a saying about shooting fish in the barrel? You heard of this, right? Because you put all the fish in the barrel, for crying out loud. Why don't you do that? Put all your clients, you put meet all these people in the barrel. And so you can actually get them easily. Some of the people that are actually selling in the $1 million range, they have to spend in $1 million because they actually end up hanging out in country clubs where the $1 million people are, clients, right? You don't have to do all that. They're in a fundraising event, I promise you. And not all fundraising events, you have to actually put so much money into it just to be in there. Some are, but some don't have that. So, yeah. Well, anyway. You guys have any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, any questions? Because
Do you have any suggestions about the VA, virtual assistants, any people that we need to contact?
Well, interestingly enough, I have that service because I know that's going to be a big demand in the business.
Are they in the Philippines?
Yeah, but you can actually, how's the accent, Mr. Randall?
What accent?
The accent of the person that we're going to be working with.
What accent?
Yeah, exactly. There's some Filipinos actually, they have dictions. Yeah, but the thing is though, yeah, you know a lot about the Philippines, but there's actually schools in the Philippines that teaches diction, American accents. And I think it makes a big difference. I think it makes a big difference.
We were very impressed.
Yeah.
The girl that we're using for the program that we're about to talk about has almost no accent whatsoever. Would you agree, Terry?
Yeah, I mean, you sound very professional, and it is all about who you interview. So, whenever you're having any virtual assistant, you interview them, you make sure that they fit what you want to be represented in, and one of the things that was important to us was clarity of the voice and sounding professional and knowledge in our industry, so.
Yeah, and you can talk to, yeah, you can talk to Sean. We interview hundreds to get one. That's how we actually interview. Just like I mentioned to her, I found a VA that speaks Mandarin, Chinese. Yeah, so we have that service if you're interested in it. What we do is we break it down in terms of a process that we put together. And like I told you, it's like 1,000 hours of effort to actually get there. And we're even like getting there. We're not even like some bigger companies. But what we know for sure is we know how to find the right talent because we've actually kind of fine-tuned everything that we're doing. So to get one VA, usually we go through hundreds, and we have a process of sifting through one of the main important aspect of it is their communication skills, how clear they are. And I think, Mr. Dan, you actually got a call from that person.
Yeah, I spoke to her last night.
Yeah, and how was it? Clear, right?
Clear?
Yeah, yeah. And if you have that kind of person that can actually support whatever you're trying to do on your system, incorporate it with the way I can actually put together your plan, we can execute it together and be able to really produce the results, which I've done actually. Did I send you the report yet from what I've done before with coaching and mentoring? I'll send you, Mr. Randall. I'll send it to you. So at least you have it. Yeah, so I'm able to create a scenario where we look at your plan and we look at the breakdown of each system that's missing on your plan, any bottlenecks that actually could be improved on, and we can work on it on the VA side and remove some of the times that you're actually doing certain things. So then you can focus your energy on the prospecting side. And then I will show you also on the prospecting side how to actually close. That's the biggest problem a lot of people have. You can have all the leads in the world, but if you don't know how to close, you're not going to get the client. Because remember one thing, you are competing with every 4 doors that has a real estate agent out there. So the big difference is, how do you differentiate you from the rest? So I'm working on a $2 million client, actually I met like last week. She already interviewed like 4 agents. And what's interesting about it is, I spent 2 hours hanging out with her. So it was a really good meeting. And she mentioned to me, like in 6 months, she's looking to sell the property. But usually you don't get to spend 2 hours with somebody unless they have interest in really working with you. Because if she spent 2 hours with every single agent, basically, I mean, she won't have enough time in the past day or two. So I know none of those agents actually got to her in terms of what's needed for that person to want to work with you. And this is the kind of stuff I train on. So it's like really reaching people's hearts and minds and making them want to actually kind of gravitate towards you. It's a whole science. It's a whole science of it. And easily your transaction can like go from 6 to 12, 12, 24. I had this one agent that worked at Remax. He was producing 2 to 3 transactions a year. And when he started working with me, by the time 1 year came around, or like a year and a half, he was doing 14 to 16 transactions a year. In working in a year and a half time frame. Because what I did is I looked at exactly where he is, identified exactly where the breakdown of the bottlenecks are, and once you start freeing up those bottlenecks and you start learning certain skills that's missing in your process, it starts to go. Everything starts to move. And you have to understand, productivity happens in a way that you actually access it through the volume of time that you have that's really focused on prospecting and bringing in the business. And then as you bring in the business, how do you close? I mean, there's even a process in minimizing the amount of showings that you're gonna do. The way I do work with my clients usually, I work with them on clumps of 3 hours when I'm showing houses. 3-hour clumps, no more than 6 to 8 properties I show. At the most, 6 to 8 properties at the most in one day. And that's a rule. And the reason why there's a rule to that, because if they're actually you're showing more than 6 houses, they don't know which kitchen has the bathroom and what bathroom has the, or where the bathroom is or where the kitchen is or which bedroom is where and that kind of stuff. After 6 to 8, you just confuse the heck out of them and they don't make a decision. And in the market we are, when there's a tighter number of inventory available, you clump it to the top 3 properties that they would want to actually see based on the list. But when you sit down with them, you need to be able to sit down with them, because a lot of the times nowadays, I want to see this house, this house, this house. They don't know what they really want. You need to be able to kind of get an understanding of what suits their goals, and then look at that goal and figure out exactly what properties that could be a possibility. There's a book called Influence by Robert Cialdini. I don't know if you've heard of this book, but if I were you, that's one of the books I would actually go into. It's called Influence, and you will see how it applies to our business and how you can actually align that. But if you can focus on that, the VA is going to help you a lot. And how to find a VA, just talk to me about it. I'll show you exactly how we can do it. Actually, Mr. Shawnee here, we found him a VA, right, Mr. Shawnee?
I got the best VA in the world, man.
The VA in the world.
I call him K-Rock. Ken, that's his name, you know?
Yeah, K-Rock. So yeah, yes, go ahead.
Can the VA help with social media posts?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. There's VAs that specializes in specifically, and they're very good at it because that's all they do. The specialization, and there's a book called Outliers. I don't know if you've heard of it, but that's the 10,000 hours, right? When you actually have 10,000 hours, what we call mastery, right? That's what it takes. And there's people out there, but you have to be able to sift through hundreds and hundreds of them, and that's what we do. We sift through hundreds and hundreds of them to find one. And we go through the whole process of, like, okay, so some people didn't apply, even better. Some people didn't finish the application, even better. So, I mean, they get weeded out. I mean, yeah, and communication is very important. So the first thing that we actually put out there is mandatory. Your English is going to be good. So send us video or audio of your voice. Hundreds and hundreds come in, and we sift through all those, and then figure out actually from there, figure out the ones, and then we IQ test them, and we go through personality testing, and then we actually do security background, and then from there basically.
I know for me, like I said, man, he's so technical, man. He is so.
Social media, right? He knows how to do everything.
He's like, go to the top right, people under push this. I'm like, I'm doing stuff I've never seen my life for, as far as he's walking through the whole thing. Yeah. It's amazing. It's truly amazing.
So that's the difference. Yeah.
So actually give away passwords in order to do edits or all the other proprietary information?
Well, it depends on what you need. See, the kind of work that we do, there's of course confidential information, but it's useless in the Philippines in those kind of scenarios. So it depends on what you're looking for. If you're looking at like MLS, right? MLS is a standard thing. I mean, nobody can steal your listing on the MLS. But of course, they need to know the rules, and they never actually have to, you need to make sure that you review their work before it goes out to the public to protect your liability. Remember, you always have liability when you have employees, right? Always keep that in mind. So with that in mind, we as being in the real estate business, I look out for your interest as well, and I actually check on those things. And Shawnee can tell you, we are on, on a scenario where we know if it's gonna work, or we know if this person doesn't have the skill, or and all the other things. So depends on what kind of work that you need. I would never give out bank accounts. I mean, that's for sure. I wouldn't be giving out those kind of information. But for certain things, yes, you could. If you actually hired an employee here, what would you give them? What access would you give them, right? So, and what we do is we do security clearance too from the Philippines, that we actually check for their background on criminal background check.
And I think this too, where I sat there our first couple of days, Mark was on the phone call the entire 8 hours. I'm like, hey Mark, he's over there. So he's actually make sure that everything, the whole first couple of days, the process, the procedures, he was on top of it like the whole day. He's like, yep. So I was like, beyond impressed. Who does that?
Well, someone who wants to place properly, right? so that's the idea. Because every person that we actually work with makes a difference in terms of making sure it's done right. Then you don't have to redo it. It's more work to actually redo something than do it right, the very first time. And we need to know exactly what you need in the beginning, and then we actually record the conversation that we have regarding how you do certain things the way you want certain things to be done. So then we use that as a platform for a training. We put it on a particular software module that we actually break it down into three pieces in pieces, basically. So then if you wanted to hire the same person next time, they just go through the training. You don't have to train anymore, because we already have your information and how you actually would want certain things to be. Unless, of course, certain things change, then you let us know. Yeah.
Recording stopped.
Yeah. Yeah, usually that's what they have. I don't know. Who knows? Definitely come to me. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, the Mandarin speaker actually
is fluent in Mandarin from China, actually, because there's a lot. I came to realize when you were asking for the Mandarin, I came to realize we have a lot of Chinese Filipinos actually that came from China that goes to the Philippines. Then we have at least like a 10% population of Chinese people in the Philippines, as a matter of fact. So that's how we're finding them. You guys, yes.
Yeah. So if you are concentrated to Asia, we would like to attract investors from there. Is there some outlets there that you want to put ads, or you want to put have some sort of?
Yeah, that's actually the quite more expensive way of doing things. I mean, what countries were you
Like
thinking
Japan,
about?
for example.
Okay, for let's say in Japan, right? It would be best to actually have contacts there to begin with, because you need to go to Japan and actually meet the people that are potential investors out there, and actually have a meeting of some sort. That's how you usually would do it if you're going to be getting international investors, because for them to invest millions and hundreds of thousands, they need to know who they're dealing with. And just having an ad or things like that, they would rather go with network contacted network that they have. So I would actually try to get to know bankers, which would know the investors. It's like if you're trying to find a way to get to somewhere, you need to actually get a guide. And this is, to me, I would start there. Yeah.
There is a organization